What is up, FA Nation? This is Kevin Tompkins here, back with another target report bullet points for week 7. We had a lot of action in week 6, and we're going to be highlighting the most actionable information to bring to your fantasy football leagues for the coming week, with all the bye weeks hitting. Of course, 6 teams on bye, so there's going to be a lot of people that you wouldn't normally start that's going to be in your lineup or in your opponent's lineup. We certainly want you to have the most possible information going into week 7 here. Of course, if you like what we're doing here with Fantasy Alarm target report bullet points, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel as well. Of course, the full target report you can find every Thursday on fantasyalarm.com. Link is in the description as well on this video. But without further ado, let's get right into the week 7 target report bullet points. On the first offensive play in the Raiders-Packers game on Monday Night Football in week 5, the Raiders threw their first pass to Michael Mayer and immediately gained 20 yards. While he would only catch one more pass for 19 yards in week 5, it at least signaled a flicker of hope for the second round tight end that he could at least begin to get ahead of Austin Hooper, who had been working ahead of Mayer, especially in 3 wide receiver sets as the lone tight end. Mayer did outsnap Hooper in week 5, but that trend was confirmed in week 6. In week 6, Mayer ran 81% of snaps and 67% of routes, played as the primary tight end in 11 personnel, and caught 5 of 6 targets and led the Raiders in receiving yards. At a tight end position where we're looking for anybody with a pulse, Mayer has that and then some. 27% targets per route run and an 8.2 yard ADOT for Mayer in week 6 means he's pushing a bit down the field with his targets instead of just getting dump offs. Of course, the quarterback situation in Las Vegas needs to be monitored with Jimmy Garoppolo's back, because I can't imagine Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell supporting all of Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Mayer. But with a role that's rapidly expanding for a tight end that was consensus best tight end coming out of college by most experts before April's NFL draft, you do want to get on board with that as a potential breakout candidate. He should be added in all leagues where, with Vegas having a sneakily condensed target tree, Mayer could soon be a key component of that. Much has been said about how much of a disappointment Jaxon Smith-Njigba has been over the first 4 weeks of the season, where he's averaged less than 5 targets per game, put up just 62 total receiving yards, and the targets he's seeing on average have been incredibly close to the line of scrimmage with just a 3.4 yard ADOT. One thing for rookies is hoping for a usage bump coming out of the bye week for Seattle, and JSN saw that in week 6. JSN saw a season-high 81% of routes, which equaled DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. JSN also saw a modest spike in his work farther down the field with a 7.6 yard ADOT, his highest of the season. Smith-Njigba is way too talented to be a distant third option in this offense, and at least for a week so far, it looks like Seattle is doing their part to rectify that. JSN also had a missed walk-in touchdown in the 4th quarter of week 6 to put Seattle ahead of Cincinnati, where JSN was in the slot, came across behind the defensive line and split a linebacker covering the running back in the flat, and the middle zone linebacker, and was essentially uncovered, but Geno Smith pulled the ball down and scrambled for 11 yards instead. Head coach Pete Carroll talked about that play in the post-game press conference, where that play in particular was a play they were waiting on all game and missed the opportunity. It's not a full-on trend here, but it's at least a positive signal for Jaxon Smith-Njigba if you're holding on to him on your benches in fantasy. And trust me, as one of the most bullish on JSN, we'll take what we can get. But this post-bye usage increase could be a sign of bigger things to come for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. While CJ Stroud has given every opportunity for the run game to play off of a better than expected passing game through the first 6 weeks of the season, that hasn't come to fruition for the Houston Texans. Over 6 games, Dameon Pierce has averaged just 2.9 yards per carry, and among running backs with at least 100 snaps, is the second worst running back in terms of yards before contact with just 0.6. Enter Devin Singletary, who carved out a big gaping gash into the workload of Dameon Pierce with 12 carries to Pierce's 13 in week 6. He was much more efficient with his carries and work in all situations, with Singletary taking both short yardage snaps, 24 of 45 early down snaps, and while Pierce did have 4 high-value touches to Singletary's 1, those are also on deck for Singletary if Pierce doesn't gain some more efficiency with his opportunities. Pierce played a season-low 33% of snaps and 22% of routes. Singletary took 40% of the rushing attempts to Pierce's 43% after Pierce had over 60% in each game thus far. The Houston Texans' run game gets murkier by the week, and if you do roster Pierce, you're clearly finding it harder and harder to put him into a lineup. But at least the Texans have their bye this week. As for Singletary, he's a player that you can slot into your deeper league flex spots in week 8, now that he's seeing 7 to 12 carries per game and showing much more efficiency than Dameon Pierce.